Sweet. Hey, I had a really good idea for an intro.
Okay.
All right, so when I say bees, you say trap. Ready?
Like at the same time? What do you mean?
No, like call and response. Like,
Okay.
okay, ready? Welcome back to Bees in the Trap. I'm Tack, and this is my co-host Jordan.
How's it going?
We're gonna be finishing up our two-part special on Nickelodeon. Um, Yeah, I'm really excited to kick this off because this is going to be an episode where I really I didn't really take many notes as much as I just did some deep dives into some of or a couple of my absolute favorite things about Nickelodeon that whether you're familiar or not with growing up with Nick, I think this is going to help you grow as a person, an American, you know, a strong, fast, capable human being. Um, but have you been, Jordan? I mean, we haven't really talked since the last episode.
I've been alright, just a little stressful. I got a lot of things, like my schedule's been crammed. Today was a real shit show. Nothing's really got in my favor. But I'm going on vacation soon, with our friend May Collins, and
Oh
I am
shit! Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm going to Miami. We're gonna go to a Pride
Wait,
Beach festival because we're
the one
all
in
vaccinated.
the
So
one in Florida, the
yeah,
Miami.
Miami.
What the fuck? That's like the exact opposite of. Wow, that's cool as hell, and I'm very jealous. Is John going?
No, it's just May and I.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not as jealous. I'm just kidding. I love May, but John's great. Um, my work as a dental lab tech, I asked for a dummy thick raise, and they were like, "Let me think about it." And then they called me back into their office, and they were like, "All right, we're gonna give it to you." And I was like, "Oh, dope! Fuck yeah, toodles!" And I went back to do my job. And then before my boss left for that day, he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's a bunch of extra shit you got to do now." So I'm dealing with that, which kind of sucks because I also I run a D&D campaign with like 7 players, including me. Uh, you know, I have a lot of shit piling up right now, but that's what that's part of beezing in the trap.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah,
Yeah, we both just got a lot on our plate. But I'm looking forward to making all these podcast episodes. So
me fucking too. I love doing this. It's really fun researching it, and I always love talking to you. Um, before I jump into mine, um, I should ask you: did you ever watch the show All That?
I did not.
Well, in 1993, um, Nickelodeon came up with this idea for doing a kids version of SNL, and there were like I think 7 or 8 actors in it. The one like big actor, returning child actor, was Keenan Thompson from his role in Mighty Ducks. So on like the first day when all of the kid actors got together to meet each other, which I think they were all like maybe 15 or 16, like like young adults. Keenan Thompson showed up like his intro into meeting the cast was on rollerblades, and that's just fucking rad. I wish
Yeah,
I could show
fuck.
up to my first day at a job on
It's
rollerblades,
not.
which it's not too
You're
late.
absolutely right.
I totally could someday.
You should just do that tomorrow.
that uh that that John Ralphio sketch in Parks and Rec when like he gets a job and he's like walking through the office and they're giving him the layout of the place, and then by the end of the tour they're like, "You're fired," and he's like, "All right, cool, so I'm just gonna go out the same door I came in," and he just doesn't even stop walking. But yeah, when Kenan Thompson rolled in on the rollerblades, Kel Mitchell saw that and he was like, "I got to befriend that guy." His exact words were, "I got to kick it with him." And over the course of like the show of filming all that, which like it's literally just SNL, but for like young adults. Um, Keenan and Kel both became like such good friends
Yeah.
offset or like outside of the sketches that it got the attention of the producers, and the producers were like, "Holy shit, the chemistry here is palpable. We have to do something." Like, this is so good that we need to make it their own show. Like Keenan and Kel, let's start writing a script for him. And they actually, it was written by the same guy that wrote Sister Sister. Um, I never saw that, but I know people that liked it. I think his name or their name, I think it's a dude named Kim Hess or something like that. Kim Haas, Kim Hans, Kim something. Um, but Keenan and Kel was it was like a fucking cult smash. It actually, if not the first year, then the second year, it won the Kids' Choice Awards at Nickelodeon. And I'm going to bring in like quite a bit of my own speculation in this. A lot of this is like totally unconfirmed, but
Okay.
so Keenan and Kel ran for like 4 seasons, going strong. With Kel Mitchell being the comedic relief, he was kind of the I don't want to say dumb one, but low key he was like the dumb one. But he had a better heart. Like he was way more honest, which I think played into a fault of his intelligence. Um, he has this trope of like doing anything at any point for some orange soda, and it kind of became a running gag that Kel loves orange soda. But in Keenan, his counterpart.
Wasn't that like, I mean, kind of thing for like Go Burger?
Oh, oh, uh, you know, maybe during the sketches on all that, because there were some. Good Burger was like a recurring thing on all that the sketches. I don't remember it too well, but in the movie, which I've seen a million times, there isn't one single mention of orange soda, and maybe it's in the deleted scenes, but like, I'm really glad you asked that because that was how Keenan and Kel, like that was the first Keenan and Kel running gag was orange soda, and it wasn't in the Keenan and Kel movie, which maybe just to make it more like people that hadn't seen the show would be too confused by that bit, but I mean the movie itself is already confusing as fuck because that's kind of like that kind of like deadpan slapstick Tim and Eric humor that goes into all the Keenan and Kel shit. But by 2003, so this is after Good Burger, which I could do like a whole fucking deep dive into Good Burger about how it's one of the best movies, easily in the top 10 of my entire life movies. Um, the one thing I want to highlight about it is while Kel is, the in quotes Air Bunnies, the dumb one, due to like I'm totally going to attribute his intelligence level due to how honest and like pure he is. Like he's the kind, sweet, you know, just is trying to have a good time. Like I don't know. I resonate with that a lot because there's been times where like I take things at face value without kind of reading between the lines, and I'm just like, just trying to
Yeah.
be honest here, and then I end up getting fucked over and look like a moron. But and then Keenan is the one that's kind of more. He's more suave. He's more cool and streetwise and shit. But like, just to quickly summarize the intro of Good Burger, which I think puts it like right into perspective about the whole dynamic of it, is that Kel is the one working at Good Burger, and he fucks up all the time. It's amazing he hasn't been fired from Good Burger. Um, that's actually something that they never mention. Like the opening scene, he's late for his shift as he's rollerblading to work, and the customer is like yelling,
Again, you. That should be you.
"Yeah!" And then Kel late Kel late for his shift rollerblades into the restaurant and like does a front flip, not a jump cool acrobatic front flip, but like rollerblades into the front counter, smacks into it, and then like somersault rolls over it, and then springs up and he's like, "Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?" Like happy to be at work, completely oblivious to the fact that there's an angry customer. They're yelling about how he hasn't been helped yet. And then meanwhile, Keenan is like planning on celebrating his summer vacation after the last day of high school. And like he's talking to his friend about how he's going to invite a bunch of, in quotes, fine honeys over to the pool and maybe order some Chinese food. And Keenan's friend is like, "Oh man, my parents are making me get a summer job." And Keenan's like, "Oh, that's the thing you got to explain to parents. The key word of summer vacation is vacation." And his friend is like, "Yo, by the way, whose car are we driving? Because it's a super nice, like a red Corvette." And Keenan's like, "This is my mom's, but don't tell anybody because I don't have my driver's license yet." And he ends up getting in a car crash that the whole like the cause of the car crash and everything plays into the plot pretty well. But he gets in a car crash and he has to essentially get a job to pay off the damages to his mom's car, and that's what brings him like he actually goes to Good Burger just really down on his dumps, like really annoyed and pissed off and everything. And Kel is the one that's like trying to be his friend, and he ends up helping him get a job, and it's so good. Like plus that brings together the duality of you got the comedic relief and the straight man. They like play off of each other, and it's so it's so fucking good, and it's so sweet, and it's so wholesome, and like it's actually a really I fucking love the storyline. Sinbad plays um, Keenan's teacher, whose car he hit with his car. So Sinbad's like a recurring character. It's like you still gotta, pay me that money. And oh my god, and fucking Dan Schneider is the boss of Good Burger in it, which I just realized. Um,
I I think I saw Good Burger when I was like I was probably 8 years old about that time.
oh my god, it's on Netflix right now. As of uh, recording this in late October 2021, it is on Netflix. Stop fucking around. Watch Good Burger.
I mean
No excuses now.
I all right. I'll give it another go. You know.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. But so anyway, that movie is super fucking good, and I could go on and on about my favorite parts from it and like why certain parts of it are really ahead of its time. And it is also the debut role of my absolute personal favorite actress, Linda Cardellini, who plays an insane asylum patient. She has like two or three lines in it, but fuck, I love Linda Cardellini, and she's like, her character is so cool. She's also like super cute in the movie, like to the point where she's like in an insane asylum, and she's very clearly just gone, like batshit bonkers gone. Like
Yeah.
the first line she says to Kel is, "Are you in here because like aliens told you to free all the animals in the zoo?" And he's like, "No, why are you in here?" She's like, "The aliens told me to free all the animals from the zoo." But she's so cute that they have like kind of the only moment in that movie that you would think that Kel is interested in like a romantic relationship is with that cute insane asylum patient played by Linda Cardellini. Just oh jeez, here I go
Now,
again.
is that the actress that I'm thinking of, where she's been in like everything? Like she played Velma and Scooby Doo.
Yep, that's Hot Velma. That's Linda Cardellini.
Yeah,
She's also
yeah, that's Hot Velma.
that's Hot Velma, man. She's also the main character, the main actress in Freaks and Geeks, which if this wasn't a special about Nickelodeon and a special about the '90s, I would have done a whole segment on Freaks and Geeks. That is like the Freaks and Geeks is where Seth Rogen, James Franco, uh, Jason Segel, uh, Martin Starr, Linda Cardellini. It's like this late '90s show that I feel like is kind of like that '70s show, but minus the sitcom and minus all the humor. It's like an actual kind of teen drama about the burnouts, the ones that skip class and smoke weed, and the geeks, the ones that get straight A's but are completely socially inept. And it's all these different relationships and commingling, and it's such a fucking great show. Plus you'll catch like, oh my god, that's Ben Stiller. And that's like the one notable one. Trey Parker from the South Park, he plays like a gas station attendant in it. um, it's just so fucking good. But anyway, so Good Burger owned Bones all the way around. And then in 2003, the world shook when Kenan Thompson got hired onto Saturday Night Live and Kel Mitchell did not. And apparently, Kel Mitchell's audition went so poorly that it was considered disastrous.
No way. What?
Yeah, at one point, Kel Mitchell's audition for Saturday Night Live got so bad that Kel just started like dancing, and then he started doing the moonwalk, and he moonwalked into a table with drinks on it and knocked the table over and all the drinks. And
No.
it was I can't imagine the stress of auditioning for Saturday Night Live, let alone fucking it up that bad. But yeah, Keenan got it and Kel didn't. And apparently Keenan Thompson is the one that said we really wanted to focus on there being a Kel Mitchell and a Keenan Thompson. His quote was, "I was really big on that." And Kel has been quoted saying as Keenan wanted nothing to do with me anymore. He didn't even want my name to be said around him anymore. And so it was like a pretty fucked up like breaking up situation. And this is where my speculation comes into play. I think it's because out of everything Keenan and Kel did, Kel, the kind of like dumb honest one, he was always the funniest one and he was the most charming. Like if anyone ever quotes, I think anything from Keenan and Kel, it's always a Kel quote because
Yeah.
he was the funny one. Like it was funny to see what Keenan was going to do as a reaction to what Kel did. Like Kel was the fire in that inferno, and I haven't seen anywhere where it says that that's why Keenan wanted to break it off, but I think it's kind of obvious. Like I'm sure that at some point a bunch of people saw Keenan and they were like, "Hey, where's Kel?" And then you'd be like, "I don't know, probably at home." And they'd be like, "Oh, damn." So like I'm sure that he was like, because I have a feeling that if most people saw Kel, they would just be like, "Holy fuck, it's Kel! Who loves orange soda?" And then he'd be like,
Yeah.
"Kel loves orange soda." And then they'd like give him a hug and take a picture and then like kiss or something. And like Kel was the Kel was like the one, and at least in my opinion. But yeah, so Keenan went on to like go do some like big SNL shit, and I'm sure he like did a few movies here and there. I didn't look it up. I didn't really care too much because Keenan kind of came off as a dick as I was researching this. But and then shit just got even worse and worse for Kel. Like Kel eventually found out that his wife had gotten pregnant by another dude, and then they broke up, and at some point Kel was just like living alone and broke in a one bedroom like studio apartment like with just a bed. And he's like quoted as saying he remembers sitting on his floor when the power went out and then he just started crying. And I'm like, meanwhile his like co-host Keenan is like hosting SNL, I think the longest running SNL cast member still, which I don't know, man, that fucking breaks my heart. But then there was I can't remember what award show it was, but it was announced that Keenan and Kel were going to be reuniting for this award show, and Kel,
Awkward.
yeah, and Kel was told beforehand. They were like, "Hey, Keenan's gonna like, bring you out on a stage. He's gonna be the one that like summons you." And Kel was like,
That's fucked.
"Well, yeah." And then like when the award show came, Keenan didn't like show up, and he ended up doing his bit over a video segment and not once mentioning Kel. And Kel like told, I think, TMZ, he's like, "Yeah, they told me he was going to introduce me, and then when they told me he wasn't, like, he just didn't show up, I was like, oh, okay." And then apparently because of that TMZ interview where Kel said that, there was purportedly a phone call from Keenan to Kel, and I guess like obviously no one listened to that phone call, but it's safe to assume they like caught up and stuff like that. And then after that, they announced that they were going to be like Keenan and Kel were going to be reigniting the All That sketch show as producers now. And from what I saw online, All That, like that sketch show where Keenan and Kel first met, it says it fired up again. Like it started in 2019, but there's I haven't seen it. I haven't seen this reboot, but apparently it just kind of like is left off. Like it says started 2019 and ended TBA. So I don't know if it's still going, but I have a feeling it's probably some COVID shit like fucked it up. Um, I I think it did get picked up to do more episodes, so it's not done yet, but I don't think it just seems to be like a hiatus situation. But yeah, so if you haven't seen Good Burger in the last 20 years, no. I mean for me, I probably watch it like every 3 months or so, just because it's such a good like feel good. Put it on. It reminds me of hanging out at my friend's house when I was a kid. It's super
Yeah.
funny. It is for being like a Nickelodeon movie from like 1998, 99 maybe. I can't think of any movie that I saw as a kid that I can still watch today and just realize, oh my god, this is like the best stoner comedy ever made. It's like Pineapple Express level humor and vibes, but as like a Nickelodeon movie. It's just so fucking good. And apparently
Oh
Keenan and
yeah,
Kel are
it
like
holds up.
homies again now. Yeah, yeah, it absolutely still holds up. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off in the intro. I was just so excited to talk about Keenan and Kel.
Imagine if like there was no intro, like as soon as the recording starts, you just went off talking about Kenan and Kel.
All right,
Straight in
listen.
for a ride.
Do you know who loves orange soda? Because I'm gonna fucking tell you. Yeah. So that's my spiel on one of my absolute favorite movies growing up. Um, what about you? Is there anything cool that you have locked in the no loaded no in the chamber in the oven ready to fire?
um. Okay. I don't. That made it sound like I had like two options: either I'm shitting or I'm pregnant. Like the.
I was thinking of I have a pizza in the oven still, and eh, the whole time I was saying that I got that pizza locked, I got that pizza loaded, I got that pizza in the chamber right now. That pizza's ready to fire.
Um. I wanted to dive into for Nickelodeon. The two I picked were, Avatar: The Last Airbender and Kung Fu Panda, and I
Hell
thought those
yeah!
two were also perfect to transition into our next month's theme, which everyone will
Wait, wait,
be.
wait, wait. Yeah, don't spoil it yet. Have
I
we already said what it is?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Nah, maybe. I don't know.
All right. All right. Well, I was going to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender to dive
Yeah,
into first.
I'm so glad that you're doing this too, because Your brother Sam has like showed me a couple sketches of it when I would like fall asleep at his house, and I loved it. But the episodes I saw were like mid season 4. I think I only saw 2 of them, so I don't even really know what it's about. I just saw a few cool scenes,
That's
but I
insane
know it has
because
a
honestly,
huge cult following.
yeah, honestly, I thought you would be someone that like was really into Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like I for sure pegged you as like someone that like watched it all the time.
There is a reason for why I didn't get into it, and I don't know if I should go into like why I didn't get into it now or I
Let's get into why you didn't get into it.
okay, it's fast. I was really into anime in high school.
Yeah.
Like there was this friend circle that my one of my best friends was a part of, and this friend circle had like 8 people that had lunch every day, and there were like girls and guys, and some of the girls were really cute. And I was like, dude, that's like you have like your whole own like breakfast club group that you get to hang out with. And he's like, we're all just anime nerds. And I was like, I want to be in that group. Anime seems cool. I'll get into it. So I was getting into like Inuyasha and Helsing and Fruits Basket, and I was like getting into all these like super niche mangas
Yeah.
and getting super into them. And then meanwhile, some of my other friends were like, "Hey, there's this anime on Nickelodeon now called Avatar. You should check it out." And I think I was just so sucked into that OG like definitely anime hipster. Like, no, that's not real anime. That's like American anime. And it's what's really funny is like I know that that was a really pompous dick reason to not get into something, but now after taking such a firm stance on not getting into Avatar out of like principle, in quotes principle, it is the one show, not just the one anime, but the one show that I have been told more than any other that I should watch.
I am here to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender and why you have missed out on this. I am just like most people, there's a cult following. I'm very passionate about it. I think on a more personal level, most people uh, listening may not know, but I grew up doing martial arts, and I basically tell people that I was
Hell
raised in a
yeah.
dojo. So,
Yeah, what was that martial arts that you were taking? Because you always told me about it at Dairy Queen, and it was so fucking cool.
so I grew up practicing Shaolin Kempo. It's still like Americanized, but we trained and practiced with a lot of old school kung fu Shaolin from China. It also incorporated karate and some jiu-jitsu. And here and there
Fuck
it
yeah.
would be like a small dabble of um like western kickboxing, but that was like super like I can't think of much that incorporated that into any of the techniques that we had. Um, but the
Jiu-jitsu is
ones,
so fucking fun.
yeah. So, a lot of the stuff that we had to learn, especially like at least in my like school system for martial arts, it was very important to learn about the Asian culture and the arts and philosophies with it and how it influenced martial arts and basically the background of where each of the styles came from. Um, and there's just a lot of diversity in like the cultures we learned.
That that's like a whole new level of discipline that I never even thought of. Cause like I know MMA and like UFC and shit's like really popping off right now.
Yeah.
But I've always it I don't know, like I know it's like self-defense training and stuff, but I've always put it in like an entirely different league as like those Asian style dojos. I think it's that discipline that you're talking about, like really
Yeah,
learning a lot about
it
the history and
I
everything.
had always wanted to take it when I was really, really young, and then I started when I was 13, and it was just like pure dumb luck that I signed up with this dojo, you know. And I was so lucky. Like they became my family, and I practiced. It was everything to me, and
I
did it
remember
for
that part of
several
your life,
years.
and
Yeah, and
it was so fucking cool.
it I wouldn't be the person that I am to this day without it. I don't even think I'd be alive. Like it just was so I don't even know the right word. Like
Do you think do you think you could attribute that, like everything that you learned in that dojo, to um I don't want to say you're like your successful life right now, but I mean you are like incredibly successful for being somebody from Havasu. Like you're going to medical school in
yeah.
Seattle or something right now, which that's like super rare for people in Havasu. That town's a fucking black hole. So like getting out of there to go to school, that's like a
Honestly,
at least as far as people I know, that's like a successful person.
um I give all of my credit. Sorry, we're like glitching, so I didn't know you were still talking. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt
Oh
you.
no, it's okay. It was fluid for me. But yeah, no, that's all. You like confirmed it.
Yeah. No, like I give 100% of my credit to going to this martial arts school. Like my martial arts instructor is my favorite person in the entire world. Like I literally could do a whole podcast episode just talking about how good of a person this man is. Like and
Do you
especially
want to
just like
say his name or?
um I don't know if I will, just out of respect. He's a very like private person, you know. Yeah. But he yeah, no, just the whole culture and everything, learning uh just the backstories to how these martial arts came to be. But yeah, about that tangent, I'll dive into Avatar: The Last Airbender, and
No, I really hope that in the future there's like another opportunity for you to talk more about everything you learned because
yeah, me
that would be
too.
really cool. I'd like to hear a lot about the Shaolin stuff that you did.
I I love diving into it, but I always feel like a lot of people like I will dive into it, but sometimes I hold back when bringing it up because I don't want it to come off as like an ego thing. I don't want to make this a huge stereotype, but a lot of people that are like in MMA or like that UFC type style fighting are very like
Hmm.
it's a part of their ego,
Oh yeah,
and it's like when I tell people about like me being in martial arts, it's not me saying that like, oh, I can beat you up. It's like I'm always so excited to share with people like what I learned, you know? Like not even just the fighting itself.
that's I think that's like ego that's earned though. Yeah, like everyone I know that does like, or at least everyone I knew that did UFC and MMA and stuff like that, it was 100% like they wore it on their sleeve. But I was always like, fuck yeah, dude. Like I tell me about it. Like that's I still think that is the coolest thing you can do with your human body is like use it as an art form to defend yourself. That's
Yeah,
fucking sick. Like
yeah.
that's like to me that's up there with like medical school. Like you're doing it. You're crushing it. This human experience is your bitch.
I God damn. Uh Thank you. I guess I don't know how to reply to that. Um
Just don't ignore it.
uh, um Avatar: The Last Airbender. It is an American animated television series produced by Nickelodeon, and it is set in an Asian like world in which people can manipulate one of the four elements water, earth, fire, or air with telekinetic variants of the Chinese martial arts known as bending. And as the show revolves around the only individual who can bend all four elements, the Avatar, is responsible for basically maintaining balance between the world's four nations and serves as the bridge between the physical world and the spirit world. Um,
How much of that?
and the
Oh,
series is presented in a style that combines anime with.
sorry. I was gonna ask how much of that is rooted in like factual mythology, like, or how much of that is just straight from the dome of the writers.
So I will actually get into that.
Okay, cool.
But like the series is presented in a style that combines anime with American cartoons, which is like, I think why it really is a universal cult following. Because
Mhm.
like, if you like anime or if you just like cartoons or like martial arts or I don't know, just any of the or just Asian culture, like I think it's just the perfect medium for all of those people.
It seems story driven, which
I'm sorry, would you say?
I said, or just being a story driven show, which that's my shit. Is like shows where it really pays to see every episode in order. I love that, and it seems like that's what Avatar is. The one thing I like wish I had known about it before I started watching it was that it was actually story driven. Like every episode is like a chapter in a story, which that's my shit. I wish I had known that when I watched it when I was
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah, it's so good. Fuck. The story revolves around, the Avatar, like I was saying, and the series is presented in an anime with American cartoons and relies on the imagery of mainly East Asian culture, but with some South Asian, New World, and oh no, I don't want to butcher these. Inuit?
Inuit?
Yeah, and Serenity influences, which are like
Oh,
indigenous.
oh, cool.
Um, so it's like a nice combination of like indigenous and Asian culture. Um,
Kind of a melting pot.
yeah, and I really appreciate that because it's just something where that small little gym where it's so easily accessible because so many people have watched it. It's like I like that it's a way of giving that culture to kids. You know what I mean? Because in in like the school systems, they're not really gonna get that.
Yeah, it kind of makes it educational in a way. Yeah, especially in America.
Yeah. So I think that's a nice little. I don't want to say tribute because that's not the right word, but just like you know,
Little sampler.
yeah, yeah. Um, and so yeah, it's based off of real life stuff. Um, The series is centered around the journey of the 12-year-old Aang, the current avatar and last survivor of his nation, the Air Nomads, along with his friends Katara, Sokka, and later on Toph, as they strive to end the Fire Nation's war against the other nations of the world. It also follows the story of Zuko, the exiled prince of the Fire Nation, seeking to restore his lost honor by capturing Aang, accompanied by his wise uncle Iroh, and later that of his ambitious sister Azula. Um, uh, Avatar: The Last Airbender was a success and received critical acclaim for its characters, cultural references, art direction, soundtrack, humor, and themes. Like a lot of the concepts in this show um, include stuff that is really touched on in youth entertainment, such as war, genocide, imperialism, totalitarianism, and free choice. And as most people know, and I'm sure you've experienced and heard, the show is often regarded as one of the greatest TV shows of all time.
Yeah.
It, yeah, it won 5 Annie Awards, a Genesis Award, a Primetime Emmy Award, a Kids' Choice Award, and a Peabody Award.
What the
Like,
fuck? I didn't know that.
yeah, it's like this shit is so good. Like, you can't. I've never met anyone, and I mean anyone, that like does not like Avatar. Like, they can be. I've met some people that are like indifferent. I've never met a person that doesn't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's never happened. um, it's just it's a goddamn masterpiece. And I'm so thankful that as people, especially us living in this time period, that like I and so many other people have gotten to experience it. And I'm so excited for other people to grow up and experience it as well. Like, fuck.
I think I'm gonna start that after my current binge session because I fucking love martial arts and I didn't know that it was like that well regarded
Yeah.
professionally.
So let me get into its like cultural references and like the martial arts into it.
Yeah,
I'm a I'm gonna give it to you right now. I'm gonna give you it.
give me it.
Um,
I'm ready.
so the series is notable for borrowing extensively from East Asian art and mythology for its universe. Its creators employed cultural consultants Edwin Zane and calligrapher. Um, I don't know how to pronounce their name. Zulong Li to help determine its art direction and settings. Its character designs are influenced by Chinese art and history, Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, and yoga.
Oh shit.
So, yeah, you can't go wrong there. Um, Jeremy Zuckerman and Benjamin Wynn created the series' music and sound design together in the early developmental stages, and then went on to divide the tracks, Zuckerman taking on the musical responsibility and Wynn the sound design. They experimented with a wide range of instruments, including the oh shit, I forgot how to pronounce these. The guzheng,
It don't
tuba,
matter.
and duduk, which are to match the show's like Asia influence setting. So, um, just kind of, I imagine those are like wind instruments.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned, like listening to just like I don't know a Zen song, and it's just like some flute, very
Yeah.
calming soundtrack. Um, But the soundtrack hits hardcore. Listen, if you find that stuff boring, I know for sure any of the listeners, like, this soundtrack is so well done.
I'm a slut for
Very,
soundtracks. I frequently
yeah,
blend movie soundtracks or certain songs especially for a certain vibe.
they fucking went for it with this show. Let me tell you, the both of them put in both of their fucking testicles into writing
Yeah.
these fucking soundtracks for this. Um, the art style of the locations used in the series are based on real locations in Asia.
Oh shit.
So, yeah, so sites such as the Forbidden City and the Great Wall of China, and in Beijing, were inspirations for the Earth Kingdom, city of Ba Sing Seng, and Water Tribe locations were based on Inuit and the Sereniki cultures, according to writer Aaron Izaz. Man, I'm just butchering all these words. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but
It's okay.
early Fire Nation designs were based on Japanese culture, and um, I think this kind of goes into a little bit if you get into watching the show. might have to do a little bit with like the war between them, and the I will use the word differences between Japan and China during the war. You know, there was a lot of shit that happened there, a lot of fucked up shit, and I think that definitely had some obvious influence when it came to the Fire Nation's position within the show.
I was
But
gonna say,
obviously,
do you think that's like symbolic?
oh hell yeah, yeah.
Oh shit,
I
I have to check this out then, because I don't know shit about history, let alone Asian history. So I would learn a lot from this.
yeah, it's I know a bit from like my martial arts class, and then thankfully I had a few uh, decent history teachers that knew their shit, you know. So,
Yeah,
um, but to avoid accidentally making broad statements, they redesigned many settings and people to be more like broadly inspired.
hmm,
Um, but for the final design, the creators went with a more Chinese style for the Fire Nation's clothing architecture. For instance, like the Fire Temple was based on the Yellow Crane Tower, and its flame-like architectural elements were like a perfect motif for the Fire Nation architecture, according to the creators. And diving into like the martial arts aspect, which is, of course, my favorite for it. You know, besides all the themes that goes into the show, which are just so imperative for kids to learn that just really aren't gone over in other kid shows these days. But the gestures used by the Bender characters are derived from Chinese martial arts, for which the creators employed Sifu Kitsu of the Harmonious Fist Chinese Athletic Association as a consultant. So each fighting style is unique to the Benders who use them, or characters who are aligned to a certain element, you know,
that's
like the water
fucking cool.
benders. Yeah, like water benders, fire benders, earth benders, air benders. For example, the practitioners of water bending use movements influenced by Tai Chi and focused on alignment, body structure, breath, and visualization, um, which I can say is just perfect, you know, especially doing some work with Tai Chi and martial arts. Like, I think that was one of the best options they could have used for representing like waterbending in the show, especially with the culture of waterbenders and the um, I don't know the right words, but I guess the ideas that come with you know, practicing Tai Chi in
Yeah,
general. Just really, they fucking, you know, hit the nail on the head with that one. Hungar was the inspiration for practitioners of earthbending and was chosen for its firmly rooted stances and powerful strikes as representation of the solidity of earth. And, you know, I think that was another perfect. So this is one of my favorites, you know, not saying, you know, I'm biased, but Northern Shaolin, which uses strong arm and leg movements, was chosen to represent firebending. And before I really learned which martial arts were used for which, I could just tell that waterbending was Tai Chi. I was like, that looks exactly like what I've learned, and I was like, it would just match up the best. But I noticed that a lot of the firebending techniques in the show, I was like, that I know that move, like I can do that move. I was like,
fuck,
I
that's
that
cool.
has to be like something related to Shaolin, you know. I was like, I fucking know that one. Um, Bagua, which uses dynamic circular movements and quick directional changes, was used for airbending. And I don't know that much about that martial art. So, you know, in the show, it looks great, especially for the concept of how airbending was done. I sometimes wonder what other choices could have been used for that, you know, airbending. I think just based off of solely that I don't know a lot about that martial art in particular, but I thought that was kind of an interesting choice. The Chugar, Southern Praying Mantis style, can be seen practiced by the Earthbender Toph, who she developed a unique fighting style as a result of her playing this. And
I saw her intro episode and it was so fucking cool.
yeah,
Like her
she's
being
this little
blind.
girl, but she's just so badass. She is the best like earthbender in this show by far. And I love that representation, by the way. Also, like her being blind, like that
Yeah.
representation in a kids' TV show.
Yeah, that's dope as fuck.
Um, but yeah, Asian cinema influenced the presentation of these martial art bending moves, and I just find it so beautiful. It was so well done. They really took the time when like drawing out, like the scenes and then animating it, and it's very nostalgic for me. Whenever I watch that show and I watch them bending, like I just like I don't know, it takes me back to growing up in a
Yeah,
dojo.
yeah. God, I can't wait to watch it because I grew up in a dojo too. I took karate for like 5 or 6 years,
Yeah, hell yeah.
and I took jujitsu as a college course,
Yes.
um, in college, and fuck, it was so cool, man. I have to watch this show now just to. I miss that vibe, like that discipline and learning all those cool moves is so cool.
I think I'll be talking about this show frequently throughout the podcast because it just hits so many themes that it has perfect fucking examples for representation in a TV show, and it's just so beautifully done. My favorite episode being the I believe the second to last episode. Aang is going to be like basically fighting the Fire Lord, which is like Zuko's he's like the son of the Fire Lord, and the Fire Lord wants to basically become the most powerful being and rule the whole world and take over all the nations. But
Okay, from a 1 to 10, how much of a spoiler alert is this?
I would say it would only be like a 5.
Okay, cool.
It's a little bit of a spoiler because you know it's gonna happen, but it's like it doesn't like what I'm about to say doesn't ruin basically like the ending or anything per
Okay,
se.
cool. Because I want to watch it.
Yeah. I think literally, if you were to just skip to the part that I'm about to talk about, like you can
Mhm.
watch it without context and just really enjoy the art of it, and then go back and watch the show, and it literally doesn't like
Okay,
ruin
cool.
anything. But there's this one scene where Zuko has to battle his sister, and which they are constantly fighting. Like they just fucking resent each other, and it is so well done. Just them both being firebenders. Azula's fire is blue, which I totally in another time will get into why she is the only firebender that has blue fire, and which is its whole other fucking like rant to go on about because I have my speculation as to why that is. It's never been completely confirmed, but my reasoning for it is actually based off of chemistry.
Ooh,
Yeah.
there's blue fire in Ocarina of Time too, which Ocarina of Time deserves its whole own special. But it doesn't explain anything about blue fire, and I've always been kind of curious about like if blue fire is also an avatar. I wonder if it has some sort of like Asian history, maybe like a story of blue fire or something.
I don't know. Um, but, my speculation has to do with chemistry and the personality of the characters and why their fire is a certain color, per se. And I don't know, just personally, my theory really matches up and holds up to like just how the characters are as people. But basically, they have this fight and they're fighting fire with fire, blue against orange, and the soundtrack to that moment is just absolutely heartbreaking, and it's such a pivotal point in the show,
Yeah.
even though it's at the end. A great wrap up, but you know, it's so intense and beautiful while you're watching it because of all the colors and the artwork that's done. But then with the soundtrack playing and their choice of the music that they used, it's, when you're watching this scene and this battle happen between these two great benders, you would kind of feel like you would expect to be excited or be fucking amped up for it because it's just like this light work of power going on. But the
It's like a
music really sets the
climax.
mood that, like, as you're going through the show and you're in the moment, especially with the context what's going on, like, it's just so devastating to watch. Like, it's so mourning, like a mourningful moment, and there's a lot of grieving going on. It's been this moment that's been kind of like leading up to this, and honestly that's not a spoiler saying that because it's like literally from like the first two episodes, like, you know what I mean, that is going to, it's inevitable. Yes, it is
Yeah.
inevitable.
Like this is
And
gonna happen.
the music really goes to show that it's just like such a breakdown of this character over time, and really shows like what being in these characters' positions do to each other. I think it brings in the aspect that, like, I think from someone's point of view that, like, oh, you would think that, like, bending and being in a fight like this would be so cool and fucking exciting, because of all this energy going on. But due to the context and reality that it's like, I don't know, I guess you could relate it to like Spider-Man. With great power comes with great responsibility, and the consequences of all their actions come together, and
Yeah.
they are just having to face like everything that they've chosen to do throughout the show, and it's absolutely devastating to just watch this fight happen, that it's gonna happen. You're waiting for it to be so like satisfying, but when it happens, it's just, by the time it happens, you wish it didn't have to happen.
So it kind of has this whole buildup of like Neo versus Agent Smith in the Matrix, and then
Yeah.
it actually turns out to be heartbreaking. Like that sounds so fucking cool. Fuck yeah. I'll look it up when we're done. That sounds really cool. I'll eat a piece and watch it.
What else would you like to share for Nickelodeon?
I am glad that you asked what else I brought to the table. Bringing another one of my Nickelodeon classics to the table.
Let's fucking do
Um,
it.
this is still got to be in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And just to couch something, I am going to attribute this to the first time I saw it. I was watching it with definitely someone that I was interested in, and like she and I sat on her living room couch watching it together because she was surprised I hadn't seen it yet. And then her whole family came out, and her whole family was also like, "Oh my god, Tack, you haven't seen this movie?" And then like this girl I liked and her whole family were all super stoked to be showing me this movie, and it was just one of the coolest moments that had happened to me in a long time. When
Hell yeah, those are literally one of the best moments when, like,
yeah,
people are super excited to show you something. They're like, "How the fuck have you not seen this?" And then
yeah.
you watch it and you're like, "Holy shit, this is so great!" Like,
Okay, I had done some research on this going into it. Anyway, this is Nacho Libre, and doing some research on it, there's a YouTube video called "Why Nacho Libre is a Masterpiece," and the the dude that's explaining a lot of it, he frequently mentions how he just kind of wrote it off as this, Nickelodeon kids comedy, and even the trailer and the commercials for it absolutely do not do it any justice. They make it literally just look like a silly Jack Black action comedy. It almost looks like a really sloppy kids version of fucking Rush Hour or something. It just doesn't look good from its cover. Like if you haven't seen it yet, it looks like you could just write it off. But without a doubt, within the first like intro opening credits, you're like, wow, this movie is gorgeous. It's aesthetic as fuck. For being a Nickelodeon movie, it has all the aesthetics that I would expect from like a Wes Anderson movie. Like literally, it's one of those like Stanley Kubrick type movies where every scene that I can think of, at least, um, like all of it looks like if you paused it, it's like a beautiful background. Like it's just the color schemes, the framing on everything. It's all so intentional and so fucking just chef's kiss. It's a beautiful movie. Um, but the story starts off with Jack Black. Oh, by the way, this was directed by Jared Hess, who had previously directed Napoleon Dynamite, which
Okay.
if you've seen Napoleon Dynamite and you've tried explaining to somebody how perfect it is, and even maybe showing them a trailer, they're like, "This looks fucking stupid." But it's literally like explaining any of the storyline or the funny parts to somebody doesn't do it any justice at all. And I think that has a lot to do with just the way it was directed.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that this director Jared Hess had like this script, and he was like, "All right, I know how to make this gold." It's the same energy comes into Nacho Libre, where it's just the way that it's presented to you is so, it makes the simplest things. There's like a couple scenes where they very clearly in post production edited some fart sounds in, and even those you're like, yeah, that would be a good time for a fart. Good one. Good job, editor, or like whoever decided to put that fart in. But yeah, so it starts off with Jack Black is playing this guy named Ignacio, and it's in a small Mexican town where like there's basically not even like a village. He's working at a monastery, which is like a big fancy church. It's presumably in basically the middle of nowhere. Like he has to ride his cart to the nearest town to like get the groceries because he is the cook at an orphanage, and he's presumably been doing it like his whole life. He's just been the one that cooks food for the orphans, and it's made pretty apparent that while the orphans love him and he loves the orphans, the brothers and everyone else that works at the monastery, they don't respect him at all. And it's primarily
Mm-hmm.
because his job as the cook, not just for the kids, but cooking food for the everyone else that works at the monastery, the food is so shitty. Like it shows the food all the time. It looks disgusting. He's frequently making stew, and it always looks like mud and looks gross. One of my favorite like quotable lines from it is when one of the brothers looks at his food, and then he looks at Nacho, who's Jack Black's character, or Ignacio, and he like stares at this like pile of stuff in a bowl, and he's like, "Do you not realize I have had diarrhea since Easter's?" And I repeat that all the time. I have had diarrhea since Easter's. um, but but like from the opening credits, you see Ignacio growing up, and he's clearly got this like love for the luchador, or the Mexican masked wrestlers. It's professional wrestling, but they wear masks.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own kind of style about it, which I presume it's just its own style of fighting, I guess, or its own style of professional wrestling. Um, which I'm gonna like lay something else out on the ground too. I've never been interested in professional wrestling before.
Oh, neither have
Um,
I.
yeah, and I know a lot of people growing up that loved it, and they would always hear the arguments like it's fake, it's not real, and I was always under the presumption like obviously this isn't real because a lot of the shit they're doing would like put you in the ER if it was real the first time they do it.
Yeah.
But I John Oliver did a special on professional wrestling that I watched on YouTube, I think, and he he presented the whole topic as being very enthusiastic about it and how we really should be paying attention to how the wrestlers are treated by the wrestling federation because they're skimped on a lot of money, they're not supported for their injuries, they're too much is demanded of them. But it's with this like bottom line that like obviously it's fake, but so is like every other scripted TV show. Like it's
Yeah.
not, you know, it never explicitly says this is fake. You kind of make that assumption from watching it. But the point is, it's entertainment. And these
Yeah.
people are athletes and actors. And so because of that, I had a lot of respect for it because I was like, they're not supposed to be actually trying to kill each other with these insane moves. It's just supposed to be an entertaining thing to watch because they usually have their own stories and whatever. But yeah, so Jack Black is he really wants to be a masked wrestler growing up. We get this like background about him, and he starts actually like wearing a mask to keep his anonymity, which is a big thing in luchador wrestling. Apparently, like the wrestlers are supposed to keep their mask on, and having it taken off is uh, almost like a deprivation of honor among it. Like as a luchador wrestler, you're supposed to hide your face, and having your face revealed is a huge like shame.
That's kind of like us with our belts in like the dojo I grew up in.
Like
Like
losing your belt is dishonor.
you would actually be punished hardcore for it.
Fuck.
Yeah, so and it also depended on like what rank you were. So the more serious rank you had, the more serious punishment you had. Like, black belt being not the highest, but basically your first highest achievement
Yeah.
is getting black belt. And if you ever forgot your black belt to a lesson, they would give you a white belt.
Oh my god.
And you would have to, like, basically,
You have to reprove yourself.
yeah. And, or if, like, you weren't allowed to take your belt off in the,
Ever.
no, you weren't allowed to take your belt off, like, on the floor unless it was like instructed to do so during the lesson, or you would be punished. It was deemed as dishonorable, and you had to treat your belt with respect. Same with your gi, and it's kind of a thing where it's like you should
This.
treat yourself with respect,
Yeah.
and you should feel proud of the rank you've achieved because you've worked for it. And it was kind of this thing where, like, if you didn't respect that or feel pride in that, why should they, respect you
Yeah.
or put pride in that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things.
That makes a lot of sense. It never explains in the movie the significance of keeping your mask on.
Yeah.
But obviously from Jack Black's perspective in it is uh, wrestling is like a sin by the church, and this is one of the parts like that I think is the real metaphor of this story. Is that he's not like he would be cast out of the monastery if they found out he was a luchador wrestler. So like he makes it a point that he wears a mask, and it's this kind of like shitty blue mask with red trim that I think he makes out of a clothing
Yeah.
table. His whole oh, he actually doesn't get that until later. Anyway, not important. Um, a big thing about the story is that he wants to do wrestling primarily for like the life that he's always wanted. Like that's he wants the fame and the attention and all the glory that comes with it. He idolizes this professional luchador wrestler named Ramses, which there's a repeating slogan throughout the movie is like Ramses is number one or Ramses is the best. And I watched this movie so fucking much that when I made my first email address to like apply to jobs online and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna make my email address tech is the best. And it's straight up from Nacho Libre. And so I mean Nacho even like says throughout the movie Ramses is the best. And that's just like the life he's going for. And he ends up not necessarily befriending, but teaming up with someone, another. I think he's like a homeless denizen of the nearby village. His name is Steven for some reason, but he He takes on the wrestling name Esqueleto, which means the skeleton, and he's really skinny, so it makes sense. And the Ignacio goes by Nacho, and they do these like tag team fights in the ring. And the first round that they do, or the first match that they do, they get their asses handed to them. They lose, and they're in the locker room. And Nacho is like super pissed. He's like, I can't believe we lost. Like, this is pathetic. And they it turns out that everyone that wrestles gets some money just for wrestling. So he like takes this money and he goes and he buys a nice pair of shoes. Uh, Esquilito or Steven buys the fucking e no, what's it called? The street corn. E. coli.
E. coli.
Steven goes and buys a couple cobs of E. coli, and but more importantly, Nacho uses his winnings to buy good food for the orphans at the orphanage. And another like wrench in the system is it's around this time that a new sister joins the monastery, Sister Encarnacion, who is played by she's played by Ana de la Reguera. She's like a famous Mexican actress, and this was her American debut. And holy fuck, if she isn't one of the most beautiful human beings I've ever seen. And then Jack Black's character, like, obviously immediately has that moment of like, holy shit, I'm in love with her. And
Yeah.
she expresses through some other instances a huge disdain for luchador wrestling. She says it's a sin, wrestlers are false idols. And so now Nacho's even further with like, fuck, I really shouldn't be doing this, but it's my dream and it's how I'm getting money for the orphanage. And he ends up man, that's kind of like the whole premise of the movie. And a bunch of shit happens, and not uh we'll say another we'll say 7 out of 10 spoiler. um and this is what I love about it is eventually he's sucking shit so bad at wrestling and maintaining this facade of like trying to win the girl and do good at his job for the orphans, and he's still losing in wrestling. This is the first time in the movie that we actually see him like kneel at a candlelit altar and pray that he can win this next big match so that he can get a ton of money and like feed the orphans. And I think he's even like, so I can like impress Sister Encarnacion with how good I am, and like, please God, just like give me this one.
Yeah.
And the candles actually catch Nacho's robe on fire, and he runs out of the monastery. And as his robes burn up, he has his wrestling outfit underneath. So now everyone in the monastery sees like, holy shit,
No.
he's a fucking luchador wrestler. And they kick him out,
Yeah.
and he's like, you know what, fuck you guys. He doesn't say that because it's a kids movie, but he's basically like, fuck you guys, because I'm gonna go win this
Yeah.
match, and I'm gonna get all the money that I need to buy a bus, and I'm gonna take all these orphans on a field trip, and I'm gonna make these kids life better by wrestling. And I'm not gonna like give away how it ends because the ending is beautiful, but I just that was like the one big takeaway aside from this aesthetically beautiful, super funny and incredibly charming and wholesome story. This like theme of the church won't let him do something for arbitrary reasons when he wants to do it for the benefit of the children. So like the church, like he has to do it all
Yeah.
in secret because he's getting good money to feed all these orphans by wrestling. But if the church found out that that's what he was doing, he would be fired. And it's like the one thing that we know that he loves at his job is those orphans, and he's pretty much just doing that job because those kids love him, and he wants to give them good food. And I don't know. I have a huge, strong stance on religion, and I can I I can get behind people that are doing it for the right reasons. Like a lot of my closest friends and family are very devout about their religion, but they also know why I fucking hate it and why I'm like a proud Satanist
Yeah.
because I'm like, that's another whole topic to get into. But Satanism is an atheist religion because it's like the religions that you guys are doing is really fucked up. And especially in America with
Mm-hmm.
freedom of religion, and you have the right to do all of these things that are heinous and shouldn't even be legal. Satanism is like, we're just gonna troll the fuck out of you and make fun of you and do good things in the name of Satan that you say is evil. And I love that. And my mom, a devout Christian, found out and flipped her shit, and we don't really talk about it anymore. But no, so like this beautiful kids movie about where Jack Black is like working at a church and he's working against the church for the benefit of the children. I'm like, God damn, that gets my heart
Yeah.
so wet and hard. And
Yeah.
it's so good. And like it's the whole movie is professional. It's
You're just telling people like Nacho Libre gets me an erection, and they're like,
yeah,
"Excuse
man,
me?"
just Jack Black in those tights with that look of determination in his face. You can
Yeah.
professionally wrestle me however he wants. Like I'm one of the orphans.
Exposing religion and its faults gives
Yeah.
me an erection as
And
well.
I don't know.
So
It's a fucking great movie. I don't know if it's on Netflix or anything like that because it's one of those movies that I personally like. I got a copy myself from the first time I saw it back in like 2010, I think. And
that's when you know it hits, when you're like, I don't give a shit if this ever is going to like hit, I don't know, like any streaming
yeah,
thing.
like
Like, I
I'll
want a
watch it when
physical
I'm sad.
copy.
I'll watch it when I'm like super stoned and stressed out or something, and I just want to unwind. I'll watch it with friends that I know haven't seen it yet, and every single time it gives me that same joy that I had of just watching it on my friend's couch with her family. And holy
Hmm.
shit, it's so
I've never
fucking
seen it
good. Like
before.
it is absolutely on par with Step Brothers in terms of one-liner quotes that you can do. Because it, it is a
Okay.
little, I'd say, on the fence of what's okay with the fact that it's a Mexican story that takes place in, I think it was shot in LA or somewhere in the desert in, California. But the whole story takes place in Mexico with Mexican characters. A lot of the movie is, I want to say, if not spoken in Spanish, then said with very heavy Mexican Spanish accents. And it's Jack Black playing the main character, which
Yeah.
I could see as probably being problematic today. But it's just his accent he
Yeah.
does. I wouldn't even call it a Spanish accent, but like the way that all of the lines are delivered and the story is, fuck, it's so apt. It's definitely on par, if not personally, I think surpassing Napoleon Dynamite for that type of humor executed that well. Because it's Jack Black, and it was also written by Jack Black's friend Mike White. Jack
Hmm.
Black and Mike White also made another movie together called School
Yeah.
of Rock, which obviously is a universal banger.
Yeah.
And I think Nacho Libre
Yes.
is
Yes.
just as good. It's absolutely just as
Yeah.
wholesome and awesome and funny, like a movie that you could watch with your grandpa and your grandson and have, like, everyone would fucking love it. It absolutely deserves many
Yeah.
watches. It's so good. It's taking a lot for me to not quote some of my favorite one-liners from it, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to. I don't want to spoil any of them. I Do you not realize I have
Nacho
had
Libre
diarrhea
is the
since
Z, is
Easter's?
universal.
Yeah, that Z is universal. Do you have one more thing that you want to bring to the table?
There were kind of just two more things I wanted to dive into. Perfect that you bring up Nacho Libre. I wanted to share, especially since I wanted to talk about an all-time favorite of mine. I mean, I I can't. Like I smile even just like thinking or talking about it. Kung Fu Panda, the trilogy, is such a personal favorite of mine.
That's so perfect you're doing Kung Fu Panda because you did Avatar and I did Nacho Libre, and I feel like if you just combined Jack Black with Kung Fu, you would get Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, no, literally, it is. It was the perfect personality to build for this um, movie series. But I kind of wanted to just share with the audience some information about Jack Black. Because a lot of people don't know that much about him. And
You got some
um,
Jack
Jack
Black?
Black isn't actually Jack Black. Jack Black is actually Thomas Jacob
Oh no.
quotations Jack Black. Yeah. So why'd you
Oh,
say it like
okay.
that? So he was born August 28th, 1969, and is an American actor, comedian, musician, and songwriter. Black is known for his roles in the films High Fidelity of 2000, Shallow Hal, 2001, School of Rock, 2003, King Kong, 2005, Nacho Libre, 2006, um, Be Kind Rewind, 2008, Burning, 2011, and Goosebumps, 2015, in addition to his role in Jumanji franchise. And he gained a Golden Globe nominations
Yeah.
for his work in School of Rock and Bernie. But he voices the giant panda named Po from the DreamWorks animations Kung Fu Panda. And just a few more notable things about Jack Black. He's also the lead vocalist of the Grammy Award winning comedic rock duo Tenacious D, which he formed in 1994 with his longtime friend
Hell
Kyle
yeah.
Gass. And they've released multiple studio albums. I don't think a lot of people that see the movie Tenacious D know that they are an actual touring band and have released albums past.
I never even saw Tenacious D.
It's alright. I wouldn't say it's one of the best films made, but the comedy in it is definitely like um upholds, definitely some great one-liners in that to reference. And it's definitely one of those movies that you just kind of like get stoned and watch.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense. I had a
But
feeling.
my baby boy, Jack Black, was given a star in Hollywood's Walk of Fame in 2008, so, good for him. And he's the son of the satellite engineers Thomas William Black and Judith Love Cohen. And
They were
yes,
satellite
so let me get into
engineers?
his mom. His mother worked for the Hubble Space Telescope and was also a writer. And
Holy
apparently,
fuck.
I don't know if this is true. This is kind of more of like theory or rumor. But when she went into labor with Jack, she like gave birth to him, and then she just immediately went back to work. Like immediately. Some
Oh,
hardcore.
damn.
Like that is a hard ass right there. Like
So he's got that upbringing for drive. He's got like
yeah.
that career
Yeah.
built into him. That career driven
And he
passion.
has three older half siblings through his mother, scientist Neil Siegel, Howard Siegel, and Rachel Siegel. Like they are all um, from his mom's side, and his brother Neil is a scientist as well, just like his mother. So you know, just a little input of how cool his family lineage is. But his mother was born Jewish, and his father
Yeah.
converted to Judaism. So Black was raised Jewish and attended Hebrew school, and he even had a bar mitzvah. So you know, if you need more fave
Damn.
Jewish actors to add into your list, Jack Black is Def one of them you should write down.
That's also like another theme that's kind of referenced in Nacho Libre. He mentions that his parents were he's opening up to Sister Encarnacion, and he says that his parents are two different religions, and he was like they tried to convert
Yeah.
each other, and and then they died.
Yeah, maybe that was like personal I don't know, like influence for those lines there.
Yeah, if he's like brought up like that, I'm sure that he brought that in because it's so fitting in that heavy religious imagery movie. Um, which is God, that's like another whole theme of the movie is the comparison. Okay,
Well,
anyway,
I
go on, Jack
mean,
Black.
unfortunately, his parents divorced when he was 10, and then his father stopped practicing Judaism. But
Oh no.
um, he moved to Culver City with his father, and then visited his mother's home frequently. But for high school, Black's parents enrolled him at the Poseidon School, a private secondary school designed for students struggling in the traditional school system. He actually had a
Yeah,
problem with coke when he was a kid. Yeah. And I think he was like
no
14.
shit.
So he was like in high school. He kind of had a problem with that. Um, so he did his dabble with drugs.
Damn. That's really fitting for I think for a lot of his mannerisms and like his humor and his personality though.
Yes, I've actually said that a lot. Like it's just very almost manic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's kind of got that Chris Farley energy
Yeah,
um
for
of
sure.
just being really over the top and yeah, it's Coke fits there, I think.
Yeah. He also attended the Crossroads School where he excelled in drama, as we have thankfully been able to, you know, uh, what the fuck? I don't know where that sentence was going. Thankfully, we have been able to experience um, his path since then, being at
Yeah,
that school.
he
Um,
kind of Robert Downey Jr.
yeah, he later attended UCLA, the University of California in Los Angeles, but he dropped out during his sophomore year to pursue entertainment. So thank God for that. But I wonder what he would have like done, you know. And sometimes I wonder like if he had ever considered pursuing like a career in science due to his
His
parents.
parents.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so he also has two kids, and you know he I can thank Jack Black for a lot of humor, and I will add this is kind of weird, but like when I think of Jack Black, especially in School of Rock, like especially like the people listening, they don't really know, but Tak and I are kind of like family friends.
Yeah,
And Tax known my family for a while, and I'm the youngest out of my mom's four children. And um, he is best friends with my older brother Sam. But I was going to say that Jack Black, especially in the School of Rock, reminds me a lot of Sam. Like whenever I see that movie, I'm like, this is literally some shit my brother would pull. Like
I never thought about that, but damn, that makes a lot of sense.
Like I every single time I watch that movie, I'm like, this is literally my brother Sam. Like I could literally see him doing that shit. Young Jack Black reminds me a lot of Sam. So yeah, I'm gonna dive into Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So before I get into this, I want to express again, Tak and I have known each other for years. I think I've known Tak since I was 12, so that would be 10 years now that we've
Yeah,
known each other. Very
yeah, that
long
sounds about
time,
right.
family friends, and we have a lot of like the same friends, mutual friends, growing up in a small town. But so for the audience, I have this best friend named Case, and Tack is also very good friends with Case as well. And
Oh, I
um,
love Case. We got to get him
I
on the show sometime.
yes. So for reference, Case and I both love this movie. We also reference it frequency, and to add on top of it, we love it so much we're getting matching Kung Fu Panda tattoos.
Hell yeah! What are you getting?
So we're not fully decided, but I kind of want us to get Poe, the main character, the panda, doing this like high kick that he does in the
Yeah,
movie, and just a
I think that's on the
still.
cover.
I think so, yes. And so I just want us to get that just somewhere, and
What
it's
if you
just
got the left half and he got the right half, and then that way when you guys stand next to each other, it makes the whole picture?
I don't know how I feel about that because he lives
No.
across the country, but we love that movie so much. Like, okay, I'm diving into it. So, for people that do
Yeah.
not know, Kung Fu Panda is a media franchise by DreamWorks Animation. And for some of you thinking, why are you talking about Kung Fu Panda when this month's theme is DreamWorks and
Nope.
we're
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon themed? I will get into that. Uh, it is also a television series for Nickelodeon. For sorry, it is also a Nickel.
Nope. Nickelodeon.
Man, I'm having a fucking stroke, and call a fucking ambulance. um, it is also a television series for Nickelodeon, and so anyone wondering, that is it. But so
I
Kung Fu
didn't know that.
Panda, yeah. So Kung Fu Panda is a media franchise by DreamWorks Animation consisting of three films: Kung Fu Panda, uh, that was released in 2008; Kung Fu Panda 2, released in 2011; and Kung Fu Panda 3, released in 2016. The first two were distributed by Paramount Pictures, while the third film was distributed by 20th Century Fox. And there were three shorts: Secret of the Furious Five in 2008, Kung Fu Panda Holiday Special 2010, and Kung Fu Panda Secrets of the Master 2011. And mentioning the television series, Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, which premiered in 2011, and a second series, Kung Fu Panda The Paws of Destiny, was released on Amazon Prime in 2018.
Ooh.
So they have had a lot of success with this franchise. And, it definitely not as big as, like, obviously Avatar The Last Airbender, but I think this franchise is amazing for kids as well to watch, especially with the humor and Jack Black voicing for all of
Yeah.
these. And he doesn't actually voice for like the TV shows. I believe he does for the short, um, like the three shorts, but it's the same for all of the three films, of course. But Kung Fu Panda is very important to me because of the martial arts in it. So, versus with Avatar: The Last Airbender, I love the aspects that it connects it to more like nature with the actual elements themselves, whereas Kung Fu Panda is going to represent the martial arts based off of basically how they were learned and how they were developed, which is by animal styles. And
Ooh.
in the movie, there is a group called the Deadly Five, which are basically martial arts masters that are studying under Uguay's student, Master Shifu. So Uguay is basically viewed, he's like this great old tortoise who's basically like the grandmaster of martial arts in some ways. especially with like the teachings in the schools and stuff. And he's basically like, supposed to be one of the greatest, knows it all, very wise, that typical type of character, in martial art
Mhm.
themes. And then his student slash apprentice, I'll say, is Master Shifu, who is a red panda, and he is the one that has trained the Furious Five. He's trained, several students beforehand, which one of them I'll mention diving into this related to the first film. But I thought I'd talk about, again, one of the things that I appreciate about it is the real martial arts in the movie. The stuff in it is so fucking accurate with the martial arts. Going into it, the Deadly Five involve their main characters' training styles that mimic animals. They're each an animal, so basically, the animal that they are is the martial art that they represent. Same with basically the other characters in the movies, besides like Master Shifu, who is a red panda. He's and Master Oogway. They're kind of like a mixture of stuff, master of many martial arts. So it's just like a jumble of styles mixed together when they're fighting. All of these martial arts in these movies have been practiced for centuries, and they're still being taught today all over the world. The specific styles represented in the film are inspired by the five animals of Kung Fu, as well as some other martial art forms. And these are also the main ones that were in my martial art that I learned growing up. And the five animals of Kung Fu are set styles that originate from the Shaolin Temple in ancient China, and, which is Shaolin that I learned. And one of them is Tiger Style Kung Fu, a system of moves derived from movements of the tiger. So basically, the movements, like the styles, are based off of how these animals in nature move and fight. But
Hmm.
those who practice tiger style focus on like explosive power and speed, which is reflected in how the character Tigress fights in Kung Fu Panda. She's a hard ass. She's voiced by Angelina Jolie,
Oh
and
yeah.
she's basically seen within the Deadly Five as like the top student. She is the best. She's the fiercest and strongest member of the group, which, should be expected from a tiger style master. It's
Yeah.
there's no surprise there. Their primary method of attacking is the tiger claw technique, which is formed by curling the fingers, just like those who fight using tiger style. In real life, tigers both attacks and poses with the tiger claw technique.
That's got to be mostly like palm strikes then, right? Like hitting with
Yes,
like the bottom of your palm.
it's a lot of punches, just a lot of power based, a lot of just explosive power. But the tiger claw, think of like when people form like a cat's claw,
Hmm.
kind of like that, but it's kind of more scrunched up. And the idea of like swiping, literally just think of a tiger's paw and imagine how a human would mimic that by attacking someone. So
So you're kind of like punching with like your forearm is really what's driving it, and it's just the base of your palm like hitting someone then, right? Because you're not really using your fingers or your upper.
tiger like this. You're gonna use the nails to scratch and tear.
Okay.
So a tiger's paw is very powerful, very strong. So the techniques using the fingers here, they're gonna be a very strong, powerful movement. So not even just the claws alone, but the fingertips, they're it's explosive ripping.
Oh
Like,
shit, that's
imagine
cool.
just tearing someone's face off or just ripping the skin, but not just by the fingernail, but by the force of the fingers dragging. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
And,
Cool.
some palm action too, yes, hitting while pulling back the fingers. La palm action, as you were saying, but a lot. The main focus again is just explosive power. Just
Fuck yeah.
again, animal styles in martial arts are based off of how animals fight in real nature. So you imagine how that animal is going to be fighting other animals and what that looks like, and that is what is reflected in the martial arts style of fighting.
That's dope.
Eh, Um, so grain is graceful and smooth in its movements, which is at the crux of Shaolin White crane style. In ancient China, crane style was often practiced by female martial artists, and a lot like Wing Chun, mostly because, unlike Tiger style, it doesn't rely on power. It incorporates numerous long range techniques and helps the practitioner to defeat opponents by exploiting weak points. Uh, it's very fluid, very graceful, beautiful. When I think of like
Bruce.
showy martial art techniques and
Hmm.
forms, I think of the crane.
That's Bruce Lee's one, right? Isn't that what Bruce Lee
Um,
got like? I think he did Wing Chun, which is like yeah, that like
yeah.
styled crane, something like that.
So
That's the
Wing
only thing
Chun was actually developed by females, and
I I think I remember Bruce Lee getting made fun of for that reason because it was
yes.
like a women's kung fu that he was doing.
So the reason crane and Wing Chun were developed is, if you view men and women, and we'll just divide them by just basic biology separation. I'm not going to dive into like,
Yeah, we'll just
um,
go with AFAB, AMAP.
yeah, yeah, the basic biological sex, and people that
Yeah,
have gone through puberty of their, um, you know,
assigned.
yes, yes. So typically the average male is going to have a bigger build, have more muscle, they're going to be able to produce more power. And whereas women are going to have a smaller build and more flexible
Like faster,
movements.
probably.
Yes. So Wing Chun and crane style is used that, like, if you're smaller in physics, yes, you can, if doing technique correctly, create an immense amount of power. But if you and some other person that is twice your size do the same exact form, they're going to just produce more power. That's just how it is.
Yeah,
And so for people that are small and they can't produce a lot of power, or typically their opponents are bigger, which a woman, in society would be a man, you are going to need something that is using more fluidity, flexibility, so more defensive blocking, redirecting moves.
yeah.
And so you are going to redirect their power and kind of redirect that energy back at them because you're not producing it as well as them. So you're basically like, doing that.
That was
But
a lot of jujitsu, from what I remember taking. Was
yeah,
just like
um,
deflecting and kind of moving them.
but you basically defeat opponents by exploiting weak points. There's also something called the crane's beak, which is like a crane style master's target pressure points, and they use other movements that mimic cranes, such as like the crane head strikes and crane like wing blocks, which are performed by holding both arms up and to the side. And this is like one of the crane signature poses in Kung Fu Panda. But um,
Who voices the crane? Do you remember?
David Cross does.
No shit. Oh my god, that's dope as hell. I love him.
Yes. So in Shaolin martial arts, snake style bears some similarities to crane style, as it leans on attacking the enemy's vulnerable points. Snake-style fighters attack with fingertips and tend to go after the eyes, groin, and other areas that are regarded as weaknesses. And Viper is the character who serves as Kung Fu Panda's representation of Snake-style, and she is voiced by Lucy Liu. I think that's
Damn, dude.
how you pronounce her last name?
I think so. That's an all-star cast.
Yeah. And so only 3 of the 5 animal styles, tiger, crane, and snake, are actually used by the Furious Five. The other 2, dragon and leopard, are replaced by praying mantis and monkey. And though neither part of the 5 animals both date back to ancient times, there are various forms of kung fu that are based on the movements of praying mantis, including northern praying mantis and southern praying mantis. What they all share in common is like a mantis hook style, where the fighter uses whip-like attacks with the wrist and strikes with the fingers. Again, pressure points are usually the intended targets. Kung Fu Panda's mantis makes use of these principles by employing a dangerous attack capable of immobilizing his opponents, and he is voiced by Seth Rogen.
Holy fuck.
Yeah,
The
and
mantis?
diving into a very fun style to play with. Basically, my martial art was based on the 5 animal styles, and then there were 5 subcategories. So the subcategories could kind of, in some theories, if you were to dive into a rabbit hole for a different discussion, would be based off of like taking 2 of the main other styles and making it into this in some ways. But that's a whole nother fucking rabbit hole to go down. But it was like, the main 5 in my style was snake, crane, tiger, leopard, and dragon. And then these sub animals, I don't know all of them. I know that there is bear, rooster, monkey, and
Rooster style?
yeah, and then I don't know the other ones. The last 2. I don't know the last 2. But monkey style was very fun to play with. Kind of difficult for me to get into. Monkey style is most commonly used in old school kung fu movies. Kind of think of when I think of monkey style, I think a lot of like Jackie Chan, who also voices Monkey in the movie. But
damn.
yeah, though often implemented for comedic purposes, it was used in a more serious manner by martial artist legend. How do you pronounce that name? Lau Kar Lung, in the 1979 Shaw Brothers classic Mad Monkey Kung Fu. And just like you would think, people who practice monkey style copy all the movements and gestures of monkeys, including their facial expressions, like for real. And experts often used like a crouch stance and numerous acrobatic moves, which is not far from Monkey's approach to fighting in the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. Just like the real life experts, Monkey uses a staff in many of his fight scenes. So, and again, Jackie Chan voices him. Diving into an interesting style, Dragon style, form of Kung Fu, which is easily recognized by signature 2-finger and thumb claw technique, is missing from the Furious Five, but it does receive at least some attention in the franchise. Poe can be seen using some of its moves in his fighting, and especially his footwork. For example, draws comparisons to how Dragon style masters fight. And this makes sense, considering that Poe is, of course, like the Dragon Warrior in the movies, which is what the whole trilogy is about. So, diving into Leopard style, the difference between the Tiger and the Leopard styles of the 5 animals of Kung Fu is not unlike the difference between the animals themselves, One jungle cat possesses great strength, while the other is a bit smaller and depends more on speed. I fight Leopard Style. That's essentially the nature of Leopard Style, which employs an attack called the Leopard Fist. And Leopard Style has little use for defense, and typically people prefer to win through aggressive, unrelenting, offensive attacks. And
Mm-hmm.
this is that through more of, a lot of martial arts is also based off of, like, at least in my school system, you're not really set, you don't really establish a style until you're like a black belt, because then
Mm-hmm.
you've mastered like the basics.
Yeah.
And but I fight Leopard Style mostly, that's my go-to. But it's most people tend to fight based off of, like, not only their personality, but just like their body. You want to go for
Yeah.
something that with your structure is going to give you the most advantage. And like my peer, Ricky, who is, I don't want to say, I wouldn't say twice my size, but he is much taller, more broad. He just has a lot more athletic and acrobatic like abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And he is also, funny enough, I'm gonna add this in. So I dive into a lot with Chinese Zodiac. The grandmaster of the system is born near the dragon, and he fights style of the dragon. My martial arts instructor was born near the snake, and he specializes in snake style. And my friend Ricky uh, was born near the tiger, and he fights like a tiger. But it's just like me, I'm smaller. I'm not quite as graceful. I'm still aggressive in my attacks. So I do a lot more like leaping to get around to make up for not having like the foot length. You know what I
Fuck
mean?
yeah. Yeah.
So I do a lot more like Tiger's very explosive in speed, whereas like Leopard is more so speed than power, so more speed and flexibility. So I do a lot more like jumping and leaping to dodge out of the way. I do a lot of like, I kind of incorporate a lot more like pressure point attacks, because I'm smaller. I don't have as much strength versus like most guys my age or older, people that I'm going to be fighting. So
So you
like
focus mostly on pressure points and stuff.
not that's not like the most focus, but that is like, I go for, like, if you're coming at me and you're this big bearing dude, I'm going to be like moving around and striking. So one of my main things that I do when I am attacking someone a lot taller than me when like
Mm-hmm.
sparring is I'm going to be like dodging around your hits, and I'm not necessarily going to be re-deflecting them like a crane would, or necessarily a snake. I'm going to be moving around them and then hitting your weak spots as you're like putting in all this work. I'm going to be jumping around. So like let's say you're coming to punch at me, I'm going to move around the side, and because I'm smaller, I'm fitting into that space. And so like I'm going to be moving in that space, and you're punching at me. I'm going to like lean and use a leopard's strike into the throat, like the windpipe, like immediate.
Fuck yeah.
It's just, there's no leopard in the Furious Five, but there is Tai Lung, who is the first movie's main antagonist, and Tai Lung is a snow leopard who was once a student of Master Shifu, and his extremely aggressive method of fighting and lightning fast attacks make him an accurate adaptation of Leopard Style. It's possible that Kung Fu Panda chose to make a leopard the villain instead of one of the heroes in order to like ensure that each member of the Furious Five was of a completely different animal type, instead of having two cats.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible.
So there's probably a cool moment of tiger versus leopard in the
There
movie.
is. So that is one of my favorite moments in the first movie. Is it's very subtle, but I can kind of see it where, especially when also Tai Lung is fighting others and he's fighting these other styles, but you can see the difference in the styles. Again, even when you're seeing both of these styles fight in general, if it's like a fast paced sparring match, like um, they sometimes can be hard to differentiate when it's in a fast paced like sparring match.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of just looking at forms and stuff, because in forms you can see the differences. But like, if you're really paying attention, again, with how these animals fight in nature within the movie, you can see just that difference in tiger versus leopard and how they would fight. Again, tigers, they have, you know, even though in the movie Tai Lung is much bigger than Tigress, you know, tigers, because they're so much bigger and they're longer and they have that more weight, they are relying more on that explosive power, just absolute destruction with strikes. Whereas a leopard is much smaller, it's not going to be able to produce that. So they are going to be much quicker, like faster hits. And leopards, you know, usually when they're fighting, they're going to be like kind of like do it, you know, like when house cats fucking jab other
Yeah,
things, like with their paw, like leopards do that more than like tigers and stuff in nature, you know, like leopards are climbing
well,
trees, they're like jumping around to get their prey.
Yeah. Damn, that's cool as fuck.
um, but this trilogy follows through Poe, where he is basically like, you know, depicted as this fat, useless panda who, you know, doesn't seem to have any talents, but he is obsessed with martial arts. You know, he's got like the Fierce Five, like action figures and stuff. And he ends up wanting to go where the Dragon War is supposed to be chose by Master Oogway, and he's trying to sneak into the Jade Palace where they are going to have the Dragon War picked, and he ends up doing all this crazy shit to try and get in there because the doors are shut and he wasn't there in time. And he ends up being chosen as the Dragon Warrior. And everyone's like, what the fuck? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
why him?
Yeah, so, you know, Master Uruguay just keeps insisting, like, Shifu's like, this is a mistake. You know, like, this person doesn't know martial arts. Like, he's just this fat panda. And, you know, Master Uruguay is just like his one thing. He's always like, there are no accidents. You know, that is his catchphrase. Like, there are no
Mm.
accidents. And the movie just follows him as he learns to master martial arts, and the trilogy follows him on him learning about his past. You know, his adopted father is a bird, you know, and he's the only panda in the village, and the trilogy follows through like who he was before he ended up in the village and adopted by this bird, and going through and learning who he's supposed to become, and learning what it means to be the Dragon Warrior, because he doesn't know what it means, and
yeah,
Master Shifu doesn't know what it means, and they're just kind of trusting in their master, Master Oogway, and that he's
Uguay the
supposed to
turtle.
be, you know, yeah, supposed to be this big grand student, and he is supposedly by legend supposed to save this village and bring peace to everyone after being, you know, no one knows him. He just sells noodles with his bird father, and he just has always looked up
Wow,
to
a
the
lot of
very
Nacho Libre parallels.
yeah, and it's just so fucking good. The third one is my favorite. It's a kids movie, but the third one, when I saw it, and every time I still watch it, I cry at the end because it's just so good. Like the lessons that it brings up, the symbolism in it is just so important for children to learn. Like I
I gotta
recommend it to everyone.
I gotta make Austin watch it. Austin is my son who is 8. He's gonna be 9 pretty soon. But yeah, that's right up his alley. I'm sure he'll love it. He liked
Hell
Avatar
yeah.
when Sam put it on for him.
I can't. Like, Kung Fu Panda is just, it's such a masterpiece. The soundtrack is amazing.
All
Jack
3 of them
Black,
are good.
yeah. The second one's all right, but I think it's just because the third one was just so well done and just so meaningful to me that like it's really hard for the second one to like kind of hold a candle to the third one because I think it was just such a wrap up to it. But I will say there is rumors that there are going to be 3 more Kung Fu Panda movies, so
Oh
6 in
shit,
total.
that's
I
cool.
just, if the audience can't see it, but I literally just held up 4 fingers instead of 6 when
Yeah,
I said 6.
yeah.
and I'm so excited.
Fuck yeah, I can't wait to watch them. I gotta watch Avatar and Kung Fu Panda for sure. I'm currently trying to work through all the Star Wars movies. But after that, I'm halfway through that. So I have a feeling, I mean, already right off the bat, I'm going to start Avatar probably tonight. That sounds really cool.
I thought I would just wrap it up with our new email for the podcast, so you can message us. Send us any inquiries, thoughts, comments,
Yeah, or
questions you have
recommendations, like
for the
things that would be cool
podcast.
to dive into
Uh,
or topics.
yeah, hell yeah. It's beezinthetrap2321 at gmail.com. Beez in the Trap, BeezIndatrap,
Yeah.
2321 at gmail.com. And, I got a question I'd leave us off at is, for the audience, are there any TV shows or movies that had a big impact on you? Are there any that perhaps shaped you who you are today, or maybe are just nostalgic to think about? We'd love to hear from you, so shoot us an email. It's been fun. Until next time, this was Bees in the
Z is
Trap. The Z is
universal.
universal.